So one of the biggest things that I want to talk about is just like the fact that, guys, this is where math is no longer right versus wrong. It's all of these are right. What's the best? Right? So there are lots of ways that we can model data. Wrong. There are some ways that we can model it right. And even wrong isn't really like wrong. It's just not as good as it could be. And sometimes people do this on purpose. Who's ever seen a commercial or anything on TV, honestly, that like they flash up like a graph or something really fast and you're like, but by the time you have a second to question it, it's gone. And they're like 95% of people or like they throw out these really big claims, or they show like a graph of like, look at the increase in your like muscle mass or whatever they're trying to advertise. Yeah, and the graphs aren't false. It's not lying to you, but it's not really being forthright about what the data actually says. And that's what makes the difference between a good modeling of data and a not good, not wrong, but not good, right? So we're going to talk about what makes a good modeling of data. So by convention, meaning like what people have kind of agreed to, right? Convention is like the norm. A good scatter plot uses a reasonable scale. So guys, what that means is if your data only goes up to 12, why would your scale go to 100? Right? Like use a reasonable scale on both axes. So guys, you don't have to match your scale. Your X and your Y can have different scales. This is one thing that kids like to get stuck on, of like, well, if I make this box worth 5, then that's worth 5. No. You can go 5 this way and then 10 this way, or 5 that way and a half that. Like, you can do whatever you want. And this is the biggest part that people are like, wait, what? Puts the explanatory variable on the x-axis. What the heck does that mean? Explanatory variable. Explanatory variable, right here. Other subjects, but guys, by other subjects, they don't mean not math. They mean other branches of math. I don't know why they said subjects instead of branches or topics, but they're just talking about other branches of math that we've talked about. We've used the words independent and dependent variables, right? We have been used to independent and dependent. Here's the problem, though. Guys, when we model data, can we necessarily say, oh, that depends on that? No. When we model data, we're looking for dependencies and correlations and causations, but we don't know that one thing depends on another thing. So that's why we do not use dependent or independent variables anymore. We use the explanatory variable, and then I need a highlighter anyways. Explanatory and response. Explanatory and response variables. So your explanatory variable is going to live on the x-axis. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing because I'm showing you the actual doc. So if you're going to highlight some stuff, because I would. Changing my ratio. So then they go on to explain the variable whose value we predict is the response. The variable we use to make that prediction that is your explanatory. So it's like dependent and independent, but we just can't necessarily say that because it might not be true. So we said the explanatory value. I keep trying to combine the words value and variable in case you haven't caught on to that yet. Valuable, yes. The explanatory valuable. The explanatory variable, stop it, is our x. So the explanatory, this is how I remember it, the explanatory is the x, right? Meaning the response ends up being the y. So, in the situation down below, the score is our response. We're not saying the score is determined by or dependent on studying. Like, do you have to study to get a high score? No. But might studying cause the response of a higher score? Yeah, might. So our response variable is our score, meaning the explanatory variable is study time. Notice this data for study time, what's the highest value? 3.25. How far do we make our graph go up? Just above that. We just barely want to go past the highest value. Then, based off the graph that you have, figure out your scale, right? So if they give you a graph that is a certain boxes wide, notice that my boxes aren't squares, guys. Guess what? Doesn't matter. We're just trying to show two different things using the grid as our like relationship, right? And this might not be a square because I stretched it. It might not be a square because Khan had it not square. Not like our graphs are not necessarily going to be squares now because they're talking about two different labels, right? Two different units. When these units aren't the same, it doesn't matter if my boxes are squares or not. Well, they need to be rectangles to be able to work a grid, right? Because, guys, what we're technically doing is we're modeling two-way data. Our data goes two ways, time and score, right? We go two ways. So it's two-way data. So let's put these points on here. Oh, and then score. Our highest score just goes to 19. Barely go past that. Go to 20 and break apart your boxes to choose the best scale. So let's plot these points. Take a moment. 0.75. Anyone want to make an observation? What? That's not, you're throwing out a bunch of big words. I just want an observation. I don't even know what you're talking about, line of best. You can see the line. There's a line. What do you mean there's a line? I see 6 points.
Yes, you can.
That sounds to make as much sense as somebody just saying there's a line.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to explain it, but
That's what I'm asking you to do, is figure out how to explain it. I like your shirt, by the way. Adam? Can you explain said trend? Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that if you study, you might do better?
no. I mean, I don't
So, if we were asked to describe what we see, this does not mean it's a fact, right? But what we see is that it would appear that a higher amount of study time corresponds to a higher test score. I'm not making facts, I'm not making rules, I'm making observations, right? All we're doing is observing data. But what we observe is as my x goes up, my y seems to go up, right? So, as some of you shouted out, there seems to be a positive trend here. Yeah, probably. Seems to go up, seems to be positive. Studying seems to be a good thing.
Out of how many questions though? Because like, what if it's just a small portion, but it's out of like 100 questions?
It's a 20-point quiz. It says 20-point quizzes.
Oh. Oh.
So, moving on to the back.
I knew that. Sure.
So, here's where we get into, it's not right versus wrong, it's which one is the best. Because all of these graphs technically accurately show the data. It's which one would be best, and guys, there are really two options here for which one is best. We have to pick the best based off of where is the explanatory variable. So remember, the y-axis should be the one we're trying to predict. So take a moment. I want you to try this on your own first. Take a moment. Check out both of these situations. There are two different situations here. Check out both of these. Think which one is best. I'm fairly nice here by saying that will be the value that goes in the y-axis, right? Unless you ask for hints in con, it's not going to straight up tell you that. So this is why we practice together, and then go do it on your own. Colin? Why do you say that?
Because the distance is the the distance determines whether or not
You used a word that we're not allowed to use.
I use independent.
Yeah, you said you straight up said the distance is independent.
The distance is the one that causes time. So like however far you go, that'll determine the time.
But can't it be the other way around? Can't. So wait, I'm going to ask two different questions here, and yes, they conflict with each other. But hold on.
Here's the thing.
Hold on.
Always going up. It depends on the
I'm not saying you're wrong, but hold on. Because you're not wrong. Can time determine how far you're able to go? Yes. Hold on. Can how far you go determine time? So could we graph this either way? Yes. The best is based off the situation we're being asked. I chose this problem on purpose. I don't like when time is on the y-axis. It feels wrong to me. However, as Colin so correctly stated, that is what we're trying to predict. We are going to use the distance we want to travel and predict the time. So since time is the thing getting predicted, it goes on the y-axis. So we know it's either going to be A or C. Then we don't choose A, Colin, because this is just bad. It's not wrong. This is right, but it's bad. Right? So C is our correct option here.
It doesn't even go to 50 minutes.
Right? Yeah. Try the bus one on your own. I mean, if you haven't done it yet, really. Company wanted to know. Are they trying to predict buses or predict complaints? Mm. Kelly's not here. Cooper, what do you think? You're thinking D? Why D? They want to predict complaints. What else? Yeah, it spreads out our data nicer, right? So B also puts complaints where it should be. B also puts complaints where it should be, but doesn't model this at all.
I mean, if they have a lot of like
He is like the tiniest thing ever. So bad.
that one just sparked.
Now, I like how Logan is trying to justify where B might be useful if we were trying to like extrapolate this and like go way far out and predict with really big numbers.
Right, because then it would have like more. It would make like a line from one. Like,
Yeah.
dots.
That's true, but it's not like that, so it's not. That's the only problem.
Again, don't be mad at me. This is just because there's lots of graphs on here and it could not fit on a single page. I should have just ran these stapled together. But honestly, most of the time kids rip them apart as soon as I hand you guys stapled papers. You're like, a lot of time, because you're like, I don't like that these are attached, and like half the time they just end up ripped. So. All right, so we're in until 37. Sorry, which really, if you're an athlete, do we have any athletes in here? Anyone that needs to leave early? You guys got to pay attention. If you need to leave early, like I don't know how quickly buses run, but like please keep me honest about time.
Honest.
You know me.
Honest.
37 because the schedule got mildly tweaked. I mean, kind of.
It's less than an hour.
By the time you guys get there and get to business, it's definitely less than an hour. All right. So, again, modeling data is so that we investigate potential relationships, right? We cannot, if you're going to operate as a statistician, you cannot go into something with a bias or setting out trying to prove something. Guys, that is what I mean about like these commercials and infomercials and things like, if I set out to prove that the George Foreman grill is the best way to make a hamburger, I bet you I can prove it. Because if I am like setting up the data that I'm collecting, and I know what George Foreman's grill does, and I know, like, God, I can make anything. Well, you can't make anything happen. You can make a lot of things happen. Right, yes. The whole, like, yeah, I'm not even going to say it out loud because then people are going to start fighting. So, this is where you got to turn on your connections brain and remind yourself, correlation does not mean causation. Correlation does not mean causation. There might be causation, but correlation does not say, oh, hey, look, these are correlated, that is a causation. So, is global warming happening? Yes. Are we the cause of it? We're not quite sure. Like, no. So, like, I don't disagree with any, like, I don't have a solid stance one way or the other. But when we look at the data, Is the temperature of the Earth increasing? Yes. But has this happened before? Yes. So, do I think we are contributing to it? Yes. But, here's a really interesting thing. A friend of mine, we drove out to a farm and helped a friend of mine cut down some trees, and we were discussing global warming and stuff. And he said, I think it's pretty arrogant to think that we human beings on this planet for only a few thousand years, a planet that has existed for billions of years, that we could have such a dramatic impact. Now, I don't necessarily agree with him, but it is a pretty interesting thought of like, okay, all because we are on the Earth and the Earth's temperature is rising does not mean that we caused that. It could.
Or we could like amplify it.
So this is like, now, do we need to deal with climate change? Yes. But did we necessarily cause it? We don't know. Like, there is a correlation. Is the population increasing and is the temperature increasing? Yes, there's a correlation. Is that a causation? Actually, it's the windmills. All the windmills are making the planet hot. No, some dumb politician said that the windmills are causing, like...
Wouldn't that be cooling it down though? Because it's like giant fans.
Yes. Now, I forget if it was the same politician or a different politician was also worried about the bird population because that these giant fans would start obliterating birds out of the sky. So yeah. Now remember, without me taking a political stance, remember there was also a politician who told us all to shoot at the hurricane to break it up. So,
Was this the same politician?
all right. Now, one thing that, hey, we don't really need to move that fast. It just doesn't really work when we all talk at the same time. So I don't care if you guys have something to say, but let's like call on people. So Adam. Called on him. Adam's brain just like jumped out of his head. He's like, peace. All right, we'll come back to you if it comes back to you. So check out this graph. And guys, what I love about Khan is they present you with real information. Adam? Yeah. We would probably try to what? Oh, have you seen Snowpiercer? We'll just make a train and just keep circling the globe until the Ice Age, does its thing, and then we'll still be here because we're on a train. That's what you're saying is true, but yeah. Like, now my friend's stance is, yeah, so we'll all die, but the planet will fix itself and it'll be fine. Like, and then humans will probably come back, right? Like, millions of years, like...
Store yourself with
He's a pretty historic human.
Did you know that the monkeys are pretty green?
Dude, we will actually...
Dang it. I wasn't fast enough. I was going to make a joke about the Monkees, the band, but I realize, again, you guys probably don't know who I'm talking about. Hey, we're the Monkees. We're just monkey around. All right. So, one thing you have not had the pleasure of doing yet is paying rent. So, to the person who said, like, wait, really? That Khan gives you real information? Guys, real data is easier to find than making up fake data. Because you can just search census data, or, like, communities are constantly pulling data to then try to get money from the government, essentially, is, like, the root cause of that. But average income. Income is what you make per year. Right? So when we talk about income, even if you work at McDonald's or if you work at Chase, right? Like, income is in a year, how much money did you bring home? In a variety of cities, right? They would have collected this from a variety of cities. The average income compared to the rent, average of course, for a one-bedroom apartment. So has anyone ever heard anything about rent in New York City? So the joke is that you pay like $1,000 for like a 10 square foot, like you can't even move. Like there's like, I can't open the fridge. Like space is such a premium. It's out of control. But In New York, you'd make more money because the economy is different. So that's where, like, rent might be expensive, but you would hope that you'd make more money because you're living in a city that pays you more. So, what might you observe from this graph? Somebody raise a hand and tell me what you might observe or infer. Zoe? Yeah, so so as average income increases, average rent increases. Now, does this mean that is a rule? No. Check out this point compared to this point. Do those follow the rule of as income goes up, rent goes up? No. Yeah, but generally speaking, there's a trend, right? So we look for trends. Take a moment, check out down here, all you people that will get your licenses soon.
2 years, a month, and 18 days. I just want my license. 2 years, a month, and 18 days. Oh.
2 years and 22 days. Technically,
I have
16 days.
3 years and a half.
You can also get your tax credit. And I'm
I'm gonna get a learner's permit.
Oh, I have random cards. I guess I could do this. Akshaya, tell us. Hey, we're going to wrap this up and then we'll be done with class and then, yeah. Akshaya, tell me what you might observe and say based off this graph. The older you get, the less accidents
Unless you're 20.
you'd be involved in, right? Unless something happens at the age of 23, you graduate college and apparently forget how to drive. Well, so what probably happens here is during this span, you're living on a campus. And when you live on a campus, you don't normally need to drive as much. Yeah, so like I went a year in college without a vehicle. Like I just didn't have one. I didn't care. When I needed to go home, I caught a ride. Yeah, like so this is just your amount of driving. So does this mean that young drivers are reckless?
Yeah.
No!
They're less experienced.
Means you're new, right? You're a new driver. Does this mean old drivers are more careful? No!
You got experience.
They're more experienced and maybe... Now, hold on though. Hold on though. This is where you have to really start to look at the data and how it's presented. Quit interrupting. What I said here is not true. Guys, we have to read what the data tells us. Oh wait, per 100 drivers? Oh, never mind. If that said per 100 drives, then the amount of drives that we were talking about here where you don't drive very much in college. But sorry, I misread. I thought it was drives, not drivers. So yeah, if this is, we survey 100 drivers who are 19, 15 of them got in a crash, right? When they're 20, 15 of them got in a crash. Or yeah, accidents, right? Nick? I mean, temps. Right, you got your temps. Yeah. Audrey?
Wouldn't, like, if you've got in a car crash, like a car crash when you're 16, you would still have gone into them when you were 20. I don't understand this.
This means like during that year, like when you were 19 years of age. Like I got in my car crash when I was 20. My dog jumped out the window of my car and I hit the person in front of me. My dog is fine. Don't worry about me. My dog is fine. Guys, so if you can imagine like driving and like really big windows. Actually, the window went way far back in this car. I had a Honda Civic. So like if you can imagine like a two-door, right? So the long front doors, like the really long front doors. And he would always have like his head out the window. Somehow his paw hit the window down button, which on the automatic windows, all you have to do is hit it and it's going all the way down. So then it starts going down. I'm like, what is going? And I like start trying to get the window back up. He puts his front paws up like out the window, and I like start to try to like get him to stay. He like tumbles out of the car. I watch him in my side view mirror spin across the ground, and the van behind me, if the van behind me hadn't swerved, they swerved and they missed him. And then I, like in that moment, like I watched him not get hit, and I hit the car in front of me. Airbag comes out. Timber, my other dog's in the back seat. Like, what the heck is going on? Dude in front of me is just like, I don't. In this moment, I was like, I don't even care what just happened, and I ran and just got Sebastian, right, my dog. I was like, whatever, I hit this car, I'm getting my dog. And Sebastian was like, what just happened? So then the dude in front of me was like, is your dog okay? I'm like, dude, I just hit your car. He's like, but is your dog okay? Like, most people are pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's scary, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Right. I don't know what Sebastian was chasing or what, but like there had to be a reason, but I don't know that he'll do it again. All right, flip to the back real quick.
We have to lock my back door because we have a desk right next to it, and my cat actually tries to like hit the door handle.
Yeah. There are 3 different types of behavior that we can recognize on the back here. There's linear and non-linear. There's positive, negative, and a mix, right? So if we look at these, and I know I'm kind of teaching a little bit differently because we're just trying to wrap things up here at the end of the year. We're actually, for what it's worth, we're actually like a week ahead. So we're doing really well. So good job. The only reason we're doing really well is because you guys keep kind of at the pace that I've asked us to go. So thank you. This, as we see, based off our conversation / argument from the front, average temperature of the world over time. So years since 1970, this would have been 2010, right? The last time that we had like really, really solid data, like is every 10 years. We like collect and gather and like put it. So now with 2020, we'll have the 2020 census. Some of your parents probably, like hopefully all of your parents filled out the census and like told the government who lives where, because we get money. Like the community gets money based off how many people live there and whatever. But if we look at this, and actually, guys, in the news today, Japan, like today, well, maybe yesterday, is experiencing the earliest cherry blossom bloom ever in 1,200 years of like celebrating the cherry blossom bloom. Earliest ever. And scientists are like, this is bad. Like, because what that means is the cycle of everything is changing. Like, I was really scared that my tree was going to freeze like a couple nights ago when we had that frost, because my tree was already blooming, right? In April, not even April, in March, trees are blooming, and it shouldn't be happening yet because global warming. It's the windmills. Yes. Actually, while we're on the topic, I said it right. It's a wind turbine. It's not a windmill. It's not milling anything. It's a wind turbine. All right, so now, let's think back to those summer camp activities, right? Where you're asked to accomplish some task with some group of people, and Vincent starts hypothesizing, I bet you the number of people we use will change the amount of time this takes us. So they're trying to solve these puzzles with 2 people. Yeah, not super fast. With just 1 person, yeah, it took them a while. But as you get more people in your group, but could this behavior continue in a line Could it take a group 0 minutes? No. Right? So, like, this definitely is not linear. So if we try to model it, it is going down, right? It is decreasing, but then it, like, levels off.
Yeah, there's a clear relationship, but it's not linear.
So what is the clear relationship then?
Larger groups tend to take less time.
Yeah, I'm thinking this. Because based off what we see, I don't disagree with Dewan. I think once you get a group that is too big, it just complicates things. But based off the data, what it shows is bigger groups take less time. Smaller groups take more time. We cannot have an opinion, guys. We are observing. You do not have an opinion when you observe. You cannot say, well, it's my opinion this temperature is like, no, it's not an opinion. Right? It's an observation. It's scientific.
It's my opinion.
Now we go to an international cake competition.
Boom.
Nick's like, I'm there. Did you already make your observation of the graph, Nick? What do you think you observed?
Scores were highest for the cakes that had 25 grams of sugar per 100 grams of cake. Like, look at that weird little curvy thing. Yeah, that.
Ooh.
Good job.
Akshay is throwing down the math slang.
It just like.
Akshay is like, it's called a parabola, bro.
Like, you can't use too much sugar in a cake or else it tastes way too sweet. Not eat it, I swear.
Now, I know some of you might think that cakes with more sugar always score higher, but that is not true, especially when the icing has too much sugar.
Because hot dogs are really icy and then you put it in your mouth and you're like,
But then you get like a good icing
oh,
about
yeah. With sweet cakes, I would
like
just add
something
hot
hard
dogs.
to the nut flavor.
All right, coming around to the wipes.
What? You guys need to go get them before extensions. Yeah, so just get your own. You are welcome. Thank you to all of you with good manners. Saying thank you as we come around, I appreciate it.
I said
Thank you, Lucky. Thank you.
I said thank you.
Sorry, I was trying to hear somebody else. That's why I acknowledged you now by thanking you for thanking me. And then you got mad at me for thanking you for thanking me. It's got the most hype.
I have the hype highlighter.
If you're in Miss Allie's extensions, go get your phone and come back. Because her extensions is here because she has a meeting today.
Imagine having a meeting.
Didn't know where you were trying to go. Thank you. Oh, Sarah. Pencil. Yo,